Hi, I'm Josh Daum, and I'm the Office Administrator for the Presbytery of the Western Reserve. As we are still in the midst of a global pandemic, many churches have moved their worship services online. This has been a wonderful way for folks to stay connected and still come together for worship at a time when it's not safe for us to physically gather in the same space. Additionally, since the gatherings are no longer restricted by geography, this has allowed folks to join in worship with our communities even when they might never have found themselves walking through the door of a particular church, which sounds like a bonus to me. But how to stay in touch with folks after the live stream ends? When we were able to meet in person, there were the trusty friendship register pads at the end of the pew that could be passed and filled out during service. But of course, now that we're all worshiping from our living rooms, physical pew pads are no longer a solution. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a digital guest book or friendship register using Google Forms, and then I'm going to show you how to shorten the URL or address of that form to make it easy to communicate in your live stream, Zoom call, or other digital gathering. So let's get started. Alright, so the bulk of this work is actually going to be done for us by a really wonderful service called Google Forms. So first thing, we're going to go to forms.google.com. And as you can see, it starts us up right off on a new form. If that didn't happen, you would see a little plus in the lower right-hand corner of the forms list that you could click to add a new form. And we're going to call this Church Friendship Register. Friendship Register is, as you may know, a pretty usual term for this kind of thing. You can call it whatever you want. And under form description, we might put something some information like that. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're just going to add form fields for all the sort of relevant details. So of course we want name. We could say first name. We're going to make that required. Now, as you can see, Google Forms is pretty smart, and as you put information, as you name these fields, it guesses about what kind of answer you might want. So it has guessed that we want short answer, and in this case we do. And to save us a little time, I'm just going to click this duplicate button here, and then all I have to do is change this here to last name, and you can see everything else is the same. It's a short answer. It's required just like this one was. And then because the next one is a short text entry, we're going to add email. Now, it suggests you enable email collection setting. I typically don't do that. You can. There's nothing wrong with it. But what it will do is it will sometimes require people who are filling out the form to do one of those reCAPTCHA verifications where they, confirm that they're not a robot. And if you don't want to have people do that or have to do that, then you can just use a short answer text and say email. All right. Now, next up, we're going to add a new question with the little plus over on the right here. You can see that whenever you hover over, you get this little menu here that gives you options. You can import questions, you can add a title and description, you can add images, you can add videos, you can add a section. But we're just going to add a question here. This actually doesn't need to be terribly complicated. So now we want to find out who these people are, how they found you, that kind of thing. So we'll say I am a, and we'll say member, regular attendee, but not a member, visitor, family member. I'm just filling this with some examples. You can obviously put in whatever choices make the most sense for you. You might have an actual friendship register, a physical document, a printout that sits at the end of your pews in your sanctuary that you might just want to duplicate in here. And we'll make that. Oh, we can have add other. And we can say required. And that's actually pretty much it. In the upper left-hand corner here you can see it says untitled form. If we click that, it's going to auto-populate it to whatever you called your form, which is great. And then that's pretty much it. So there's a couple things. So if you are using G Suite as an organization, and that's how you access things like Google Forms, Google Docs, Google Sheets, you will need to click on your little gear up here like I did and uncheck restrict to your organization. You want anybody to be able to use this. Presentation will give you some options about what happens after they click submit. So you could say something like, thank you for completing our friendship register. Hit save. So that is the bulk of the work in creating the friendship register. Now what I want to show you is when you click on responses, excuse me, when you click on responses here, you have this little create spreadsheet button. We're going to do that in just a moment, and I'm going to explain why here. So if we didn't do that, all of the responses would be aggregated and you'd be able to look at them here. I don't know about you, but I like spreadsheets. I like lists of information that I can manipulate and query and sort and do all of the things that I need to do to sort of find them, find what I'm looking for in them. So we're going to click create spreadsheet. We're going to say create a new spreadsheet, church friendship register responses, and click create. And then it's going to take us right to a Google Sheet, and you can see that it has all of the fields that we put in, first name, last name, email, and what information or what description best fits them, as well as a timestamp. This will show you when people filled out your form. So I'm going to go ahead and at any time you can click the little I button up here to preview what you've done. And it'll show you exactly what your attendees, anybody using this form, would see. So we're going to say John Presbyter, and we'll say jqpresby@email.com. We're going to say I am a regular attendee but not a member, and I'm going to click submit. And you'll see it says, thank you for completing our friendship register, which is exactly what we told it to say. And if we click back over here to our spreadsheet, you can see that that information populates pretty much in real time. Pretty much the moment I clicked submit, it popped into this form. Okay, so that will be how you interact with the information once people provide it. You can actually find this. This will show up if you went to sheets.google.com, which is the Google suite of applications spreadsheet program. You'd see this in your list. And that's pretty much it. All right, now before we leave the form and head on to the next part of this tutorial, I did want to show you a couple of extras here. So what we've done here is pretty much the bare minimum nuts and bolts. Of course, you might want to collect other information. So let's say we want to collect phone number. And so we could put in here phone number. And we know that Google Forms is pretty smart. And we'll switch this to short answer. It adds a little bit of response validation so that people are only entering numbers. Under custom error text, you could put something like, please enter only digits, no dashes or parentheses. You might want to make some of these required or not. You can leave that up to your own judgment. I'm not going to make phone required. Okay. So, you can add whatever questions you want to collect whatever information you are going to find useful. And then you can see if we go to the form preview. So we're going to say Jane Presbyter, jpresby@email.com. Maybe she's a member. You can see now the phone number here is, and you can see if I try to add dashes, you can see please enter only digits, no dashes or parentheses. So that basically you want to put in some error validation text that is going to tell people what information you're looking for and how you want it to be entered, and click submit. And if we go back over to our form here, you can see that a field has been added here to the end that is phone number, and we can format that to look a little more like a phone number, but that's for another tutorial. That's spreadsheet work right there. Okay, so now let's clean some of these tabs up. I want to show you a couple of things up top here. So we looked at the gear button, we looked at the I button. I want to show you this customized theme. So when you click on here, you can see that it gives you It gives you some choices about color. We could make the theme orange. We could make it green. We could make it gray. We could add a custom color. We can change the background. There's a lot of options here. We can add a header image. So we will go like this. Great. Click done. Okay, so now we have a header image up top here. So if we were to look at our preview again, we would see that right up at the top. Take a moment to load. And actually, on the subject of how smart Google Forms is, what it has done is it has looked at this photo I've uploaded and it's grabbed some colors from it. So now we can change our colors so that they match the theme of the photo. Maybe we'll make our background look a little bit more striking here. So there are a bunch of customization options. Google Forms is a really powerful tool that can be used for a lot of different things. We use it for everything from event registration to things like this, just gathering basic information about people. There's a lot of flexibility that's built into it with different sections, and you can move to a particular section based on the answer to some question that you've asked. But for our purposes here for this tutorial, this is about all we need. So this is great. We have our friendship register completed. We have customized the form so that it's actually something that's nice to look at, that we want to show our members and our guests. And now we just have to get it into their screens. There are a number of ways that you can do this, but for simplicity's sake, for something that's going to be easy to say out loud in a live stream, because of course you could put a link to something in your comments on your Facebook live stream or in your Zoom chat or however you are doing your remote worship, but it would be better if this was something relatively simple that we could just say out loud to people. So there's a couple of options here. I'm going to click send here, which is primarily how we're going to get the information that we need to send this form along. So I'm going to click send, and I'm going to click over to the little link button here. And you can see this is a very, very long link. It's not something that's easy to look at, to say, or even to look at. But if we click on shorten URL here, it's still pretty long, but this is something that's a little bit more manageable in a pinch. If you needed to, you could put this up on a screen and people could type that in. All right, so we could hit copy, and you'll notice that if I put this into my browser, it takes me right to the form. So that's method one. I don't really think that this is the best method. I want to show you a couple of other options for getting this link into people's hands. So what I want to show you next is basically a variation on the same thing. So when you shorten a URL, you're not actually creating a new website at a new web address. It's basically a note. Google has given itself a note that says when somebody goes to this page, forms.gle/hcq, etc., what they really mean is this very, very long and hard to look at thing. This is a short and hard to look at thing. So what we really want is a short and easy to look at thing. So we're going to use a different URL shortener. There are a variety of them out there. They're bit.ly. We're going to use one called tinyurl, but it really doesn't matter which one you use. So I'm going to take the full length URL and I'm going to click copy. And I'm going to go over to tinyurl.com. Okay. And I can just paste my URL in here. And that's all I have to do. I could click make tiny URL and it would make a short thing that would be relatively easy to speak out loud to somebody and have them type into their browser bar. But tinyurl also gives us another option, which is to customize it. So it's going to be, our result is going to be tinyurl.com/something. So let's say Presby Friends. All right, and I'm going to click Make Tiny URL, and we're going to hope that one is not taken. It seems not to be. And now we have https://tinyurl.com/presbyfriends. I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to put that in my browser bar. And look at that, it takes us right to the form. So now, instead of having to put something up on a screen, instead of having to put a link on your website or put a link in the chat, which might or might not work depending on what device somebody's using, and then they've moved away from Zoom and they don't know how to get back, and all of the various things that can cause hiccups, you can just say to somebody on your Zoom chat or on your Facebook live stream, don't forget to go to tinyurl.com/presbyfriends to let us know you were here. And that will automatically route them, or whatever yours is. Obviously, that one is taken now. Sorry about that. But that is another method. You can use a URL shortener with a custom alias that allows you to create a shortened URL that is a little bit easier to digest, a little bit easier to say out loud and have somebody be able to remember and type into their browser bar. All right, now the final method for having a shortened URL is what I'm going to call sort of an advanced method, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it anyway in case you find it to be useful. So again, over here we have our friendship register and our link here. The final method is called a URL mapping or a redirect. And this is if you have a website that you have control over the domain and the URL mappings. I'm going to be showing you this on Squarespace, but there are methods for a variety of different content management systems, whatever you happen to use. There's going to be a way to do this. You might do it right on your hosting site. You might have to do it with your domain name service. The specifics are going to differ depending on where your site is hosted and how you deal with your top-level domain, but the principles are going to be the same. So I'm going to show you this on Squarespace. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my link here. I'm going to click over to Squarespace. Now, on the left here, you've got choices. Again, the specifics are going to differ depending, if you're using Squarespace, this is how you'll do it. But if you're using WordPress or you're using something else, your specifics are going to differ. You can actually Google how to set up these redirects. What you're looking for is what's called a 301 redirect. So we're going to click on Settings. I'm going to click on Advanced. I'm going to click on URL Mappings. So basically what we are doing is the format. This is actually pretty much the same thing that is happening when you are creating a shortened URL using either the Google URL shortener or using tinyurl. We're just doing this sort of the long way, the manual way that we have control over. So the first thing we want is our alias, or our URL slug, it's sometimes called. So if you've ever gone to like preswesres.org/social. That /social is called a URL slug. It's the end that gets you to a specific page. So first we're going to want that. So we're going to say /friendship. All right. And then we're going to create a little arrow using a dash and your little greater than symbol there. And then another space. And then we're going to paste in our URL. And then I'm going to give another space, and I'm going to hit 301. And that's it. I'm going to click Save. And what's going to happen when I go to preswesres.org/friendship is it's going to send me to that form. Because what we've done is we've told our website, when somebody goes to preswesres.org/friendship, what they really mean is docs.google.com/form/d/e/11fa, etc. All that extra stuff. Now, any of these methods will work. Having an embedded link, copying and pasting into the chat, into a comment in your Facebook live stream, using a tiny URL, using the Google shortener. I prefer this 301 redirect because it allows you to sort of keep everything within the same sort of realm. If your members are used to going to your church's website, or if you want people to get used to going to your church's website, if you say go to firstpresbysumtown.org, that's going to stick in their minds as opposed to saying tinyurl.com/whatever. Now, of course, any of these methods are going to be better than none. I'm just telling you that I prefer the 301 redirect. Not everybody has the ability to do that, depending on how your website is hosted or depending on your sort of individual level of technological prowess. But Google is your friend. The internet is your friend. A lot of these answers are out there and can be found. Now, of course, in this video, I've covered some pretty specific methods using Google Forms, using Squarespace, using tinyurl, using these sorts of specific services. But these are only a few of a vast, vast quantity of services out there that can help you gather and distribute this kind of information. And what I really was hoping to communicate with this video was that you don't have to be a full stack web developer. There are plenty of tools out there that can help you create these solutions for yourself, regardless of your level of sort of technological prowess. I tell people all the time that I know a bunch of stuff, but more than that, I know where to look for answers. And so I always say, don't be afraid to Google. Don't be afraid to Google your questions. You know, if you're looking for a service that does a particular thing, when I'm looking for that, the first place I go is Google. So you can follow the methods in these videos, but if you have other services that you prefer, or if you want to look around a little, you can use the form builder in your particular website content management system. But the point I wanted to make here was that there exist services that allow you to do these kinds of things with a very small amount of setup on the front end, and it still ends up being a very powerful solution. So I hope this has been a helpful video. I hope that it has emboldened you to sort of seek out some of these interesting little problems you can solve and you know, find services that work for you. So thanks for watching.